Hey, everybody. As many of you know, this Friday is the last day of school here in Rock Hill. And I just want to encourage you to be praying for all of the students who will be out for the summer, and especially for the high school graduates who are preparing to leave for college, for the teachers maybe who are trying to recuperate and rest a little bit from a taxing school year. Just pray for everyone involved in that. Pray for the leadership of our school district. They have such an impact on our children and on our community. So will you be praying for them as school wraps up for this year? Now, today, in our Bible reading plan, we are in Exodus 29. And this, we've already seen a detailed description of how the tabernacle was to be constructed and the furnishings and the different things that were a part of that, detailed description of the clothing that was to be made for Aaron and his sons. Now in chapter 29, a very, very detailed description again of the consecration and ordination, if you will, of Aaron as the first high priest and his sons as priests who served with him as the high priest, and that Aaron and his sons, his descendants throughout the years and centuries to follow, would serve as priest and high priest. This was a perpetual statute. In verse 19, he said, "You shall gird them with sashes," God talking to Moses about how to ordain them, "Aaron and his sons, and bind caps on them, and they shall have the priesthood by a perpetual statute. And you shall ordain Aaron and his sons." In other words, down through the centuries, the only people to serve as priest and high priest were to be descendants of Aaron. No one else. So you jump ahead a few centuries after the death of Solomon, when there was civil war in the nation of Israel, and the kingdom divided into two kingdoms, northern kingdom and southern kingdom. Rehoboam, Solomon's son, king in the south, and Jeroboam, a military leader, king in the north, and Israel would never be one nation again. When that happened, in the north, Jeroboam created his own altars and places to worship, and created his own priesthood, and kicked out of the country any descendants of Aaron, Levites and so on, who were priests. And he created his own priesthood who were not descendants of Aaron, violating this very scripture and sinning against God. And that's why there was not one single good, godly king in the northern kingdom. Never, not one. So when you read that in the book of Kings and Chronicles and Jeremiah, Ezekiel, what was going on north was a violation of this very passage. All right. Now, as the centuries passed, every priest, every high priest was to be consecrated and ordained. Look at verses 29 and 30. 29 and 30 says, "The holy garments of Aaron shall be for his sons after him, that in them they may be anointed and ordained." Verse 30, "For 7 days the one of his son who is priest in his stead," the one who's going to become the new high priest, "shall put them on when he enters the tent of meeting to minister in the holy place." And so just as in this chapter, Aaron and his sons were ordained and consecrated to the priesthood and the high priest, down the road, their descendants were to be consecrated and ordained in the same way, a perpetual priesthood, each one ordained, each one consecrated to the Lord. And in this chapter, when it describes how they were ordained or consecrated, there was the use of animals, making atonement, blood atonement for sin, if you will, for sin. There was also bread, these cakes, these pieces of bread that were to be eaten as a sign of fellowship. Just as when we get together, we eat a meal, we fellowship, we eat bread, we break bread together, fellowship. And so the priest is this idea of atonement for sin, but also fellowship with God. Now, having said all that and read this chapter, here's the point I want to make. Well, one more thing first. This all happened in public view. Look at verse 20, verse 4. Verse 4. Then you shall bring Aaron and his sons to the doorway of the tent of meeting, the tabernacle, and wash them with water. The ceremony was not to be in secret. It was to be in the open, in public. The door of the tent of meeting, remember you had the tabernacle, and then it was surrounded by a curtain, and there was a courtyard inside the curtain. So you have the tabernacle, the courtyard, and then the tent, and the tribes lined up on the outside around the tent. The door, the gateway, the door in through the tent into the courtyard facing the tabernacle, because the Jewish people could not go into that courtyard. They could not enter inside the curtains. So the ordination took place outside the curtains, the doorway, at the doorway, but on the outside so the people could see it's done in public. Now, I want to say a couple of things. I am convinced more than ever. I'm a 67-year-old man who's been a pastor, who's been preaching for I've been preaching for 50 years. Been pastoring for right at 48 years. More convinced than ever that ordination to the gospel ministry is a sacred thing. And in our culture today, and maybe more so among certain evangelical groups, we have dummied it down and made it too much of a casual thing. And we are, I believe, to guard against that. For many years now, when someone asks me about a call to ministry and being ordained, I take it much more seriously than I did in my younger days. And we have made the process for ordaining someone to the ministry here more stringent than it used to be. The examination of a candidate, the questioning is more in depth, more intense, more aggressive than it used to be. And there's multiple steps to it. I learned over the years, you lower the standards, you get what you ask for. Consecration and call, ordination to the ministry is a serious thing. It's not a casual thing. And ultimately, what matters the most is the relationship with God. Close with this. Look with me at the end of the chapter, starting at verse 42. He says, it shall be a continual burnt offering throughout your generations at the doorway of the tent of meeting, the tabernacle, before the Lord, where I will meet with you to speak to you there. I will meet there with the sons of Israel, and it shall be consecrated by my glory. God's presence, glory, consecrates a place. Like when Moses saw God at the burning bush, take off your shoes, the place you're standing is on is holy ground. Why? Why was it holy? Because God was there. Verse 44, I will consecrate the tent of meeting and the altar. And I will also consecrate Aaron and his sons to minister as priests to me. I will dwell among the sons of Israel and will be their God. They shall know that I am the Lord, their God, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, that I may dwell among them. I am the Lord. I am Yahweh, their God. Matters most is the presence of God, the relationship with God. Those who seek to be ministers, want to be ordained, better walk with God, because the impact they have on the people of God is very real. And that is a sacred thing, a sacred duty for which we are accountable to God. Just because someone wants to be ordained does not mean they should be or are qualified to be. This is a sacred calling, an honorable one, but a sacred. Well, that's the word for today. I'll see you tomorrow as we look at Exodus chapter 30. God bless you, everybody. Have a great day.